Impemba and James Grande.
What is going on, FANation? Jonathan Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Playbook live show for Monday's 8-game main slate. It has been a crazy day in the NBA, not because of the trades. We thought maybe there'd be some potential trades after the last couple of days over the weekend. No, instead, we just have a bunch of players not playing today. Some big names as well, particularly in the Milwaukee Bucks OKC matchup here, with Milwaukee deciding no Giannis, no Damian Lillard in this one here against OKC. If you were in our Discord, you saw us just updating all day long. Grande was doing his best on the playbook to get that updated as best as he could for all of you guys here. But I have to believe we will likely have more news to come through while we are live here today. So bear with us and make sure you are by your phones, by the internet, in our Discord as we approach the 7 p.m. roster lock, because it seems like a day like today, you're going to need it.
I mean, happy Monday. And you said the whole trade thing, that's still on the table until the 6th. There was the report today that owners are quite literally changing teams' flight itineraries so they don't have to have an awkward plane ride home with players that they trade.
Okay.
I mean, dude, there is it is just the wild, wild west out here, with people getting ruled out and with the amount of trades that apparently at any singular time can go down. So,
and monster names today were floated about,
monster names, dude.
Every big name in the NBA was essentially floated, from Giannis to Durant to
LeBron. Giannis. Oh my God. It's just, we're living in a crazy time. This is a crazy time.
Listen, the NBA trade deadline, I think, is the 6th, right? So it's like the end of this week here. So approaching the deadline.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
And it makes me happy to say this, John. This is the first time, maybe ever, that you can say the Super Bowl week is not being dominated by the NFL thus far.
Maybe that was intentional. Maybe they're like, you stole Christmas from us.
You stole Christmas.
Watch what we're about to do.
Nico Harrison is a double agent for the league, and he's like, hold my beer. I got us.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to trade Luka.
I love the GM being like, I guess we'll find out down, in a couple of years if I was right or wrong on this.
Dude, the most tone-deaf answer of all time. I had the worst answer of all time.
Yeah, and then you just hear all the anonymous GM sources coming out being like, I would have given up our entire team for Luka Doncic. So, why not? Danny Ainge not even knowing what the deal was that he was part of. Did you see that report?
No.
He had no idea that he was the third man in the Dallas Lakers trade. He just thought he was trading to get the Hood Shafino there for 2 seconds. He didn't realize he was being part of the 3-teamer until it was too late.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So there's a lot again, and that's just the stuff that's been going on. We still have a whole slate to talk about.
Yep.
We'll do our best. There's a lot of injury news still to come here on this slate. A lot of big name injury news that we're still kind of watching and waiting on. There's obviously now a ton of value. We had a question in the Discord: is Milwaukee forcing us to play a bunch of bad chalk against a good OKC team? Yeah, seems that way. Seems like we're going to be forced to be playing some bad plays. But hey, we had that the other day, right? With Dallas against Cleveland. Dallas sat their entire team, and yet there was a $3,000 center that had a double-double. And if you didn't play Kelly, I don't even remember his first name there now.
Kyler
Kelly there. You were missing some money there. So we'll figure it out. We'll go through it again. Grande's got his playbook for all of you guys, and we'll update that as we need be. Do appreciate you all already in the chat here. Zavon saying, what's up? We got a Yeet, maybe a fan of the Royal Rumble winner here, Jey Uso, or is he just, we'll see. Cujo saying, what's up? Coach Chris saying, yo. Slate got crazy. Sure did. I see through you in the Discord with us saying good luck. Jerome in the chat this morning, and also here saying crazy high slate today.
Not a fan of Luka. Jerome, not a fan of Luka, I don't think.
Well, you listen, there's some fair criticisms on Luka, right? Great offensive talent, no doubt. Obviously, he got exposed defensively in the NBA Finals by the Celtics. He just switched on him and burned him possession after possession after possession. You can't be a two-way great player, I guess. But and then the reports that he ballooned. The new report today I thought was interesting. They gave him 7 days off to lose weight, and he came back heavier.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's some of the stuff that I don't think matters.
Well, conditioning matters if you can't get yourself up and down the floor.
Sure, it did. He was clearly hampered by conditioning last year, and guess what? They made the NBA Finals.
Sure.
And 2 years prior, he was in the conference finals.
But now it got worse, maybe?
Clearly there's clearly issues. It is like my biggest complaint about Luka was like the complaining. I just can't take how much he complains to the refs.
Yes.
He's just constantly, but like, would I trade Luka for complaining? No, I would say here's the supermax, Luka. If you want to complain, just do it a little less,
Yeah.
And that was apparently part of the whole conversation. But wild times we're living. Let's get into the slate because there's just so much going on.
That's true. And David, I see your question. We will discuss. We'll talk about the 10 p.m. Games. They're Magic versus Warriors, Suns versus Trailblazers. We'll talk. Throw some plays out there for you. And again, if you are
awful games, but
I
have write-ups. I have the specific FanDuel write-ups in the playbook today.
Yep. If you are a fan, 7-day free trial right here, David. If you're not a member of the Fantasy Alarm family, 7-day free trial. You can go get that playbook access today and check that out. We also have our big game sale going on. If you go to fantasyalarm.com/big game, you get 50% off the next 6 months of your all pro package there. So that's fantasyalarm.com/big game to take advantage of that 50% off the next 6 months offer. And that includes the 7-day free trial. So you can go check that out over on Fantasy Alarm. You want to go check it out there. All right. Top overall spend ups on the slate. Jokic 12-3, SGA now 11K, Wemby 10-8. We'll see if he suits up or not. Cade at 10-3. No Giannis, and no obviously LaMelo. SGA and Cade, we talked about that this morning, how we felt about maybe spending up. Given the situation in Milwaukee now, are you feeling less willing to pay up for SGA, or is the fact that there's still no Jalen Williams and even less competition for him makes him appealing for you?
Yeah, I mean, OKC's down 5 rotational pieces, right?
Yep.
Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, AJ Mitchell, Cason Wallace, and Alex Caruso. Yeah, those are 5 guys that play for them every game. Now, obviously, they are still really good. They still have SGA. They still have Lou Dort. They still have Isaiah Hartenstein. And obviously, can't exclude Aaron Wiggins and his 40 bomb that he drops. But, like, yeah, it's dude, the guy has, when you're taking those players off the floor, SGA's usage rate is over 40 and is averaging 1.8 fantasy points per minute. You know who has those types of numbers? Nikola Jokic. That's like the end of the list, right? Like when people are off the floor, that's like the end of the list. So at a 40% usage and a 1.8 fantasy point per minute mark, I think that there's a clear gap between him and Cade Cunningham if the game can stay close. Yeah, I didn't think that when we did the show last night, but I think with how much is out for OKC, if that game can stay competitive, I think that there's a clear gap between SGA and Cade, and I would spend up on Cade. But that's, again, your opinion on, like, not yours specifically. Yours does matter to me, John, but the larger, the masses, like the opinion of will this game stay close is what matters the most.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously that will lend to a pretty incredible ceiling one way or the other. If you're not looking to spend all the way up at point guard today, where does your playbook lead us?
Can we just do you want to just gradually get to the clear value of the day, or do you want to just get there?
No, tell me where you're going with your playbook today. I mean, obviously, again, there's plenty of mid-tier options. There's some questionable pieces that we're waiting on. There's obviously a good matchup, for the Pelicans plays. There's Malik Monk without De'Aaron Fox. Where are you looking to go here? Because we know where the min value is for Milwaukee, on that side of that matchup.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll build to that point. Trey is fine in tournaments. We didn't really touch on Cade, but that game has obviously is really good. It's gone up. It's been bet up a lot today. It's about 237.5 right now. It opened at, I think, 3 points lower than that. So you can obviously play Cade. I think SGA is a better play, but you could definitely get to Cade. Jalen Brunson's a little bit interesting. No OG Anunoby. Numbers go way up for Brunson in terms of usage, which I was surprised by that they get such a big usage bump. But we're getting like ceiling minutes out of Brunson lately. I know he's going to deal with some tough defense here with Amin Thompson, but I like Brunson. I really like Tyrese Halliburton in tournaments. You just got to pick the right day. And that's been our opinion on Tyrese Halliburton basically throughout the year. Like, he has a very high ceiling when he is being aggressive offensively and when he is making shots. When he is not, he will kill your lineups, kill them, brutalize them, play again tomorrow, right? But it's a great spot. It's a really good game environment. So I like Halliburton quite a bit in tournaments. That's probably my favorite play, like in the 8K range, especially in large field stuff.
Sure.
I love Malik Monk tonight. $7,200. No De'Aaron Fox, no Kevin Huerter. 27% usage rate, 1.17 fantasy points per minute. Minnesota is good defensively. Looks like they're going to have Edwards and Naz Reid tonight. Both went through shoot around. But they don't have DiVincenzo. Monk is, not going to be the guy that likely gets the Jaden McDaniels assignment. I'd assume that's DeMar DeRozan here. So I like Monk in tournaments quite a bit. You can play like a lot of these guys. Like you can play Jamal Murray. I think Jamal Murray's fine. The numbers don't actually look that great without Russell Westbrook this year for Murray, but you can definitely get there. He's been pretty damn good outside of like a few games over the last month or so. You can play Daniels in a tournament. You can play Sexton in a tournament. Jordan Poole downgrade is a little bit interesting. You never like the midday downgrade to an illness.
Yeah.
I'd expect Brogdon to start, but obviously it could be Carrington as well. There's multiple directions they could go.
Yeah.
But Carrington was like kind of out of the rotation the other day. He only played a handful of minutes. So Brogdon maybe, depending on your feelings on 21 minutes. I don't know what the expectation would be right before the deadline.
We've seen him play 30 this year, so
we have. No, I know, but he missed a month, and then with the injuries and the deadline, I don't know what they'd want to do with him, right? Like, because they clearly, he's clearly going to garner some attention in trades if he's healthy. But I think then, like, you just go to value, right? Jose Alvarado was mostly the chalk point guard of the day for the whole day until all the Bucks news dropped, and then that changed. I still think Alvarado is very solid. We should see him start here. I guess the only other scenario they could go with is like playing McCollum on the ball and playing Hawkins, who was just rolled in at the 2. I don't think they would do that. I think they would go Jose Alvarado as a starting point guard. And I like him per minute. I mean, he's been super good this year. No Ingram, no Murray, no Jones, no Alfred Payton, 21% usage, 1.08 fantasy points per minute. The game has 240 implied points. So I like Alvarado. But the reason I worded it that way, that he had been the chalk point guard of the day, is now a $3,100 Ryan Rollins is your chalk point guard. And that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier. And the question was from Sean Penny, an avid watcher and a longtime subscriber, salute to Sean, about like, do we have to play guys from Milwaukee in a bad matchup? Well, like that's and you specifically cited, I think, something that matters, like Dallas yesterday, right? They played a bunch of guys that you knew they were going to play because there was they were down a bunch of guys, similar to the situation, in a game that they probably shouldn't compete in and probably won't compete in. The off chance that they do, you obviously get like, in that scenario, like Clay probably would have had to go off yesterday, and like you just get outlier performances. But like Ryan Rollins, who's probably going to start here, probably has 30-minute upside, is going to basically play in all scenarios. Like he's going to play early in the game. He's been in their rotation to begin with. He is a really good fantasy point per minute player. This year, I have it updated in the Fantasy Alarm playbook that you can find on fantasyalarm.com and acquire that playbook with a 7-day free trial by scanning that QR code up in the top corner of this show. It's not a large sample with who's out because Milwaukee has had a lot of Dame, Giannis, Middleton, Portis this year. But when those guys are out, it's a 25% usage rate, 1.1 fantasy points per minute for Ryan Rollins. If you were to get 30 minutes out of Ryan Rollins at those numbers, he's in every winning lineup at $3,100. So this is 100% chalk that I'm eating, and I'm not even thinking twice about fading that. Despite the tough matchup, despite everything, it's just I'm going to play Ryan Rollins at $3,100.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, we've seen him have success, obviously, in similar spots where he was forced into the starting lineup earlier this year. Now, again, as you mentioned, a more healthier team and roster around him at that point, and definitely not as tough of a matchup as we see a couple of games against Chicago, Washington, Toronto, or some of his more, avid minutes in terms that he's played here. But if you're just going to play, he needs 15 fantasy.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It just does not matter. So
if he has a 25% usage rate, and if he took 15 shots tonight, all you need is like 4 shots to go in, and then he's good peripherally to get you there. Like, it's not like he could do that in one shift.
Yeah.
With who's out for Milwaukee tonight.
Yep. Anybody else? Trae Young officially in, thank God.
Trae Young officially, that would be, yes. Might as well, I would log off. Just log off the show. You'd be doing the rest of
all of a sudden we had to go play Keaton Wallace again or something.
What a nightmare. Kennard 48. I'm interested to see what Memphis does tonight because they ruled Bane out. And Ja's questionable. I'd assume Kennard would just start at the 2. Maybe they go a different direction and they just start Jalen Wells. And
do we make of anything of Marcus Smart upgraded to doubtful?
That's usually a sign of I'm back next game.
Okay.
That's how I always interpret doubtful upgrades.
We got a couple of those from them today. We got our guy.
Can't wait.
Our boy.
I love Memphis is such a fun team. But they have 20 guys.
I know.
It's a nightmare. It's going to be even more of a nightmare than it already is.
The day we get Vince Williams back in our lives, the better we are.
But I do think you're correct. I do think Memphis in general here at point guard is a very interesting dynamic because we've seen Kennard upsert Pippen, right? Yeah. When Morant's been out. But Pippen's been kind of balling lately. Yeah. So I wonder if Morant sits, if we just see them both start, where we see Scotty and Kennard in the starting lineup. Because then we have a gosh dang decision to make because Pippen at 45, Rollins at 31, Alvarado at 48, all only point guard eligible. So you would have to be making a decision. I think Rollins is pretty set in stone for me. But if Scottie Pippen found himself in the starting lineup, I would lean Scottie Pippen over Jose Alvarado.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. There's just with Hawkins back in the mix, right? It just could lend to them going in a different.
Yes. Put McCollum on the ball. You already have Zion on the floor, right?
Jerome saying obviously Denver not a great team defensively. I mean, I do like the Pelicans guards.
Yes.
If you want to get there, I mean, we'll talk Murphy in a second. Obviously, if you wanted to go McCollum, he's probably going to take 10, 12 3-pointers tonight. And we've seen him hit 10 3-pointers this year. So, if he just has one of those days, then, he's going to, pop off, in that matchup specifically. Shooting guard. You have Anthony Edwards at $9,500. And you have Murphy, mentioned that. McCollum, Jalen Green. Malik Monk, you mentioned Daniels has been in this range. What are we thinking there, shooting guard?
So I really like Ant in tournaments. I think Ant is really interesting. Went through shoot around this morning. Obviously, the illness is always a little bit of a concern. Keon Ellis is going to be the primary defender, but Keon Ellis is much smaller than Ant. Keon Ellis is 6'3". That's not exactly the best matchup, especially with Ant and how many threes he's going to take, the ability to shoot over Ellis, the amount of how good Ant is like everywhere, posting up and doing whatever. So no Julius Randle, no DiVincenzo, ton of ball handling opportunity for Anthony Edwards. I think he's a great tournament play, $9,500. Like Murphy more than I like McCollum. The numbers suggest that as well. That's just me following the numbers, being a numbers nerd. Trey Murphy is really solid. 28% usage essentially with all the guys that are out. 1.18 fantasy points per minute, and we're talking about a guy coming off really high ceiling games. One of the games with Zion. So I like Murphy quite a bit, better eligibility than McCollum as well. I think Jalen Green is going to go completely just under-owned in this tier amongst everyone else. 38 minutes in back-to-back games for Jalen Green, monster usage rates in those games, no Van Vliet, no Jabari, possibly no Şengün. And no one's going to play him. And we saw the stretch of Jalen Green's game where he was just going nuclear.
Yeah.
And I think with how shorthanded they are and potentially going to be without Şengün, we're going to get ceiling minutes out of Jalen Green. We are going to get 40 plus fantasy points. And if the threes are falling and he hits 6 of 11 threes tonight and he's 16 for 30 from the floor, Jalen Green's going to score 40 actual tonight. I know Mikal Bridges is going to guard him, and that's not like the most fun, but there's also been a lot of their ability.
Listen, the shot attempts are obviously elite. No Fred VanVleet lends to the ball likely being in his hands even a bit more, even if we think Amin Thompson's going to be a primary ball handle. And we'll see what this lineup ends up looking like, right? We don't officially have
no idea
all of the injury news that are out there, but definitely thinking Green is in a good spot, even against the Knicks team here. $7,300 is a really good price for a guy that, as we've seen, 40, 50 fantasy point upside, going on these hot stretches. And again, he's kind of going on that hot stretch right now while still not hitting his threes.
Well, still not making his threes, yep.
So if we start getting that to drop, look out. We could have 60 fantasy points. So you get Dyson Daniels. He's going to be on a lot of Cade Cunningham tonight. He's 71.
So much. So, dude, I'm telling you, Dyson's going to follow him to the bench. You're just going to watch them. They're going to sit next to each other. On the Pistons bench, he's going to be sitting next to Cade Cunningham.
Vassell, $6,000. Again, this is a guy that we pretty consistently talk about how good his price is.
Yeah.
Has not come through in these last handful of games for us at all. Love the 3-point attempts. Don't like the 3-point makes, obviously. And then just the overall, we're not getting any, the secondary stats are kind of disappearing too. So we're kind of struggling. I still think $6,000 is too cheap for what the player that Devin Vassell is capable of being is. They are adding De'Aaron Fox soon, so he's going to be taking a hit in usage rate and all that stuff. Where are you with Vassell in this particular matchup?
You're right. I think the price is too cheap. Devin Vassell was asked about De'Aaron Fox being added, and he said, I'm going to have to make some shots. So, yeah, you're right. The recipe for the success is obvious, right? Wemby, De'Aaron Fox in a lot of action, and then make shots, please, everybody else.
Yep.
You'll probably be on the floor a lot more if you do. So, yeah, I like Devin Vassell. I like Stephon Castle as well for a little cheaper, in that same vein. If you're just talking Spurs in general, I think Stephon Castle.
Are you playing Stephon Castle today or are you playing Christian Brown?
I definitely like Christian Brown. I think where I'd give Stephon Castle the edge is the usage rate has been elite for Stephon Castle. I looked at some Castle stuff. He's had a 20% usage rate or better in 11 of 12. Christian Brown had an 18% usage rate in a game. He went 24 and 11. There is just always going to be a separation of usage for Brown because he's, no matter who's in and out, he's fourth in terms of pecking order. We're Jokic, Murray, Porter, Brown, right? That's the order it's going to be in terms of offensive priority. So I lean Brown, but I get why you would play Castle instead. He's a little lower owned. I think the minutes are probably more secure on Christian Brown with, given the Peyton Watson and Westbrook status. So I lean Brown, but I like the pivot to Castle as well.
Sure. Anybody else in this low 5K range? Do we think Malik Beasley can keep it going at 5,100?
It's fine. I think that there's like other values I'd probably go to first.
All right. Are you in on the Thunder? Like you mentioned Dort last night. With all the guys that they're out of the lineup here tonight, do you think Dort is a viable play here alongside SGA?
Dude, I think people are sleeping on Lou Dort. You know, you look at some of the stuff with those 5 guys that the Thunder are missing from their normal rotation. He's over a fantasy point per minute player, and everyone's pivoting to Isaiah Joe. You know, he is a popular play tonight. And everyone's pivoting to Aaron Wiggins. Aaron Wiggins is a pretty popular play tonight. It's something that you and I had discussed on last night's show. And nobody's playing Lou Dort. And if he's going to be a fantasy point per minute player and have mid-30s upside in terms of minutes, if this game can stay competitive, then yes, I have interest in Lou Dort as a pivot. You know, he has better eligibility than the more popular Aaron Wiggins. Now, Lou Dort doesn't have a 41-14 game on his resume, but he is quite good per minute. So yes, I do think Lou Dort is interesting this evening.
Yeah, agreed. Hey, all right, where's the rest of this value for you at shooting guard?
I mean, we're gonna obviously take a look at some Milwaukee stuff. AJ Green's getting all the ownership at 3,300, and I do think AJ Green is interesting. Not a self-creator at all. He needs to be past the ball. He is a motion, stand in the corner 3 guy, but very, very, very good 3-point shooter and can get rolling really fast. And I had talked about it with you before yesterday's or the other day with like the Gary Trent stuff. And I thought as soon as Green was able to be elevated, he would usurp Trent, and that happened yesterday. Now I think Trent's also in play because they are down so many guys and potentially more if they rule Brook Lopez out.
Yeah.
So, you know, Gary Trent's been a fantasy point per minute guy without all the people that Milwaukee's out. He's 4,200, good eligibility.
I kind of think Trent might be one of my favorite plays, depending on, I guess, who actually is in or out for them, just because I think his shot volume ceiling feels like it could be the highest. You know, if they're without and now Bobby Portis got listed as doubtful too. So maybe this is a Bobby Portis return without Giannis. Like then, you know, Portis would be the guy that we'd obviously all just immediately plug into. But if Portis ends up being ruled out and like they're without Brolo, like Gary Trent could be a 20 shot attempt guy tonight.
Yeah, those are the 2 names we're waiting on, right? Brolo questionable, which interesting that he hasn't been ruled out yet. And we'll talk some Brolo stuff in a little bit. And then Portis is doubtful, which is an upgrade. But yeah, I mean, it's a 46-minute sample, and I included Portis out in this sample. But 23.5% usage rate, 1 fantasy point per minute for Gary Trent. It's solid. Like it's those numbers are actually a little better than AJ Green. AJ Green getting a lot more ownership than him. And then Keon Ellis is obviously the other guy that everyone's getting it to because, you know, $3,500 likely starter. I guess my only thing, and it is one thing that I would potentially like to talk through. I still think it's going to be Keon Ellis, but if Naz Reid is playing, do we think that there's a potential for like Trey Lyles to just be the starter and they go big, right? So
we've seen teams go bigger against Minnesota. Like it's wouldn't be the last thing. I will say, like, I do like Ellis more so on FanDuel, just the defensive upside that he brings you with those stats. Really good steals guy. If he's going to get extended minutes, I think he's probably a better FanDuel play. Obviously, the pricing makes sense on DraftKings at $3,500. I don't know what he's listed at over on.
He's 44.
Yeah, a little bit much there, but just knowing what he brings to the table defensively, he could go and get 5 or 6 steals, 5 or 6 stocks tonight. Playing a 35-minute sample. If he's on the floor for long.
I don't know if I like the 4,400, but I get the stocks from the stocks.
I mean, he's a menace defensively. So, Jordan, we just talked about him. He's fine. Again, he's going to be on the floor. He shoots a lot of threes. If he gets hot, he can knock him down. They're so short-handed, Milwaukee could literally score 80 points tonight. Yep.
I think truthfully, I'm just most comfortable playing Ryan Rollins. That's basically it. Like comfortability, that's it for me.
Sure. All right. Small forward. Aaron Thompson's $8,300. Again, no Fred VanVleet. We've seen him be the starting basically point guard in those situations. Earlier this year, he's already been in the starting lineup. He's been phenomenal. If you want to spend 83 on him, sure, no arguments with me in that direction. Where does it fall to you then, though, at the small forward position?
Josh Hart. Okay. Upgraded to probable, pacing for 40 minutes in that Lakers game if he didn't. And it's just chaos when he's out there. I mean, he has 2 games of 60-plus fantasy points and 2 games of less than 35 in his last 4. There's no in between. There has no been like solid floor. It's been ceiling. It's been basement, right? For Josh Hart at this price. But no OG. He's about 1.1 fantasy points per minute. And he is just a really good tournament play. I mean, you look at through the numbers. He has his last 5 triple doubles. He's had 56 or more fantasy points. He has 5 triple doubles since December 30th. Little over a month. He has 5 triple doubles for this team. And no one's going to play him again. So I love Amin
Aaron
Thompson.
Gordon now questionable.
Oh, that's bad. He's definitely out. We're here at small forward. My guess we would just see one. I think there's 2 options here. Njai, they played 20 minutes the other day. We see Zeke Njai or Strother. That would be the 2 like most obvious starters, I think, if Gordon can't go, because they obviously moving Gordon back into the starting lineup. And we can get to Strother at this position anyway. But I think Amin Thompson and we talked about Murphy already. And Josh Hart would be like the 2 guys for me really sticking out. I saw a lot of ownership earlier today on DeMar DeRozan. The numbers look really good for DeMar DeRozan when there's been no Kevin Huerter, no De'Aaron Fox. The price is really good for DeMar DeRozan. The matchup a little less great because DeMar DeRozan's going to get the Jaden McDaniels treatment. You know, if you end up on DeMar DeRozan, a chalky DeMar DeRozan at 6,300, I'm sure you're not going to be upset about that. I do, for a few $100 less, like Michael Porter a little bit more. I think the matchup is just infinitely better and easier to navigate. Plus, we saw it, right? We've seen it for a month. Denver getting healthy has completely deterred Michael Malone from like playing Michael Porter.
Yeah.
And now they're not healthy again. And now you see it the first game, 41 minutes on the second leg of a back-to-back for Michael Porter.
And now could be without Gordon in this game too. Right?
He might not sit. So I have a hard time not playing Michael Porter tonight. And I'm not like, that's not a secret. DeMar DeRozan is the highest owned small forward of the day. Michael Porter is the second. But at least there's a little leverage going from DeRozan to Michael Porter, and that's leverage that I'm gonna get on the field. I prefer Porter to DeRozan tonight.
Aaron Wiggins exploded for 41 actual,
and was masked because Luka Doncic was traded on the same night.
Right. Same situation now for the Thunder. Easier matchup, I guess, because Milwaukee just benched everybody.
Yes.
Do we get a repeat performance?
Whoa. You're asking it. You're setting me up for that with that. You're setting me up asking it that way. I will say that the best part about Aaron Wiggins is that he plays in blowouts.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he starts, right? He plays in blowouts. So
okay.
I don't know. I'm not going to answer the repeat question. That's the setup. But
he's getting 17% ownership.
Yeah, the ownership has gone up for sure. I think that he is definitely in our player pool. He's in our lives. He's 5,300, which you never ever in a million years pay for, except in situations where they're down a bunch of rotation pieces and he's coming off 41 and 14.
Yeah.
And it's a 15-point spread, and he's probably going to play 40 minutes again, right? So I think there is merit to the price. And I don't think it's chasing if you are factoring in all like what's going on, right?
Yep, agreed. We've talked Dort already. Harrison Barnes has still been pretty decent.
Yeah, Christian Brown to the moon. I mean, Denver in general, right? Because
we talked Christian Brown. Yeah.
They don't play anyone. Yeah, they don't play
Monk,
anyone.
you were definitely in on Monk still. Monk over Jamal Murray. Ask Ronnie.
Yes, Monk over Jamal Murray. But obviously, Gordon sits. How many, like, legitimately, I mean, there's 40 minutes for all 5 Denver starter potential.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever the 5th starter is, plus. And then they're going to play, like, they played Jalen Pickett last game. They played Njai last game. So, I forgot. They took, we didn't talk, Strother's only shooting guard now, which he's been shooting guard small forward. If he were to start, obviously 3,400, throw another value play.
Strother would be I figured you would go to once. I mean, right now, Gordon's like the 3rd highest rostered player.
Yeah.
If he got ruled out, you'd assume Strother would be the guy there. Jalen Green or Monk, ask Casey.
Let's see. I think that's easier for me to go the Green side if they rule Şengün out, because then you're talking 3 starters down. Like, you're talking 3 starters down, Jalen Green, all the volume in the world. So if Şengün plays, I might stay Monk. If Şengün doesn't play, I'll go Jalen Green.
Okay. Let's see. What else do we have here? We obviously have Cam Whitmore that's down here. Talked Gary Trent already.
Richeche, 46.
Richeche, yeah, 4,600.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to go here. I've been like kind of monitoring his ownership all day, and it's actually gone down. It was like 6, 7, 8% most of the day, and then all the value opened up. It's a large field tournament play. I don't think Richeche is like all too safe in like cash or tournament or like single entries and stuff. You and I highlighted that like random 1 second quarter rotation Richeche had yesterday for no reason at all, or the other day for no reason at all. But I do think in large field stuff, he's fine. I mean, former number 1 overall pick. We've gotten 2 30 actual point games this year in his rookie year, right? Like no Jalen Johnson, no Bogey, no Capella, like short rotation. So in large field stuff, you're MMEing. I like some Richeche for sure.
Okay. Anybody else?
Can play Isaiah Joe, but good chance he starts. TBD on what Memphis does with everybody. Could you randomly see a GG Jackson get elevated to like the star? I don't think so. LaRavia randomly started. I don't think so, but it's possible. But I think that's it. Just
power forward. Giannis out. Bridges $9,000 versus Washington. Zion 85 against Denver. Triple J, no Bane, maybe no Morant at $8,300. You can play Hart here. Siakam, I know, is a favorite of yours today. What are you looking to do?
I mean, dude, having no 7 p.m. exposure tonight seems like the move to me. I don't know if you feel the same, but having the flexibility to like get to all this 8 p.m. and later stuff seems like the move. Because like if Ja gets ruled out after 7 and you can go to Triple J without Bane and Ja and whoever the hell they're playing, and like we don't know the Wemby, still don't know the Wemby status, and we don't know like Miles Turner was downgraded, and we don't officially know with Denver. Like Triple J would be my answer if Ja gets ruled out. If Ja gets ruled out, Triple J would be the guy for me. I love Miles Bridges in tournaments. I think Zion at 8,500 is incredibly appealing in tournaments. And I'm surprised to even see his ownership where it is. It's just, I wrote this in the playbook, and every time I look at it, it doesn't move or only goes up. Without the guys that New Orleans has tonight, Zion Williamson has a 40.4% usage, and he averages 1.77 fantasy points per minute. They're just numbers that people don't have. So in a tournament, I love him because the field just doesn't play him no matter what the minutes trend is. They just think that like, oh, there's no way that he can sustain this production. Well, you want to be in on Zion before his minutes are at 32 and you missed out, right? So in tournaments, so that's how I would handle the situation above 8K.
Below 8K then. What's the range we're looking to target here?
Pascal, as you mentioned, I think is great. He's been super good. Got an all-star bid out of basically how he's played for the last month and a half. He's just been elite, and this matchup is no different. Possibly no Miles Turner tonight as well. I'm surprised the ownership has kind of dipped a little bit. He's still like the 5th highest power forward of the day, but yeah, Pascal is my guy. We had a question earlier in the show. I think it was from Jerome, if I remember correctly. It was about Naz Reid. Yes, if Naz Reid is available, then I'm good with trusting Naz Reid. He left the game. He had a hurt finger. He went through shoot around this morning. Without DiVincenzo and Randall, 22% usage, 1.1 fantasy points per minute.
I agree.
He's gonna play all the minutes. He just got hurt in that game.
Yep. Again, we mentioned MPJ. Do you have a lean on Hunter Harris in that matchup, Atlanta Detroit?
Not particularly. I'm telling you, I think I'm ignoring the 7 p.m. games like you're ignoring me.
Say Bobby Portis gets ruled in.
Oh, well then, yeah. I mean, the obviously like Bobby Portis doesn't move the needle all too much on like competitiveness in that game, I would say, but I mean, he is a good basketball player. So I think even in like 26 minutes, Bobby Portis can go crazy.
Sure. Tari Eason, do you need him starting tonight? Or are you just cool playing him regardless?
I would prefer Şengün's out.
Okay.
Because they've been using him in like some smaller lineups. And I think you could do that with the Knicks too, with Precious as your backup center, or whatever the Knicks do with their starting lineup. I'd assume it's Precious, but you'll still see like early Town sub and then Precious at the 5. That's usually what they've been doing. So those are the lineups that Tari Eason could thrive in as like small ball center. So no, I don't think we need him in the starting lineup. I just prefer if Şengün's out.
All right. Value at the power forward position for you?
I want a Memphis starting lineup like I want air to breathe, because I want it to be Santi Aldama so bad.
Yeah, I mean, you know how I feel about Santi Aldama.
He hasn't missed a shot all year long. And anytime he's extended, there is seemingly great things that happen.
26 minutes, back-to-back games for him. 28 and 43 fantasy points.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon Clark being questionable. I know they're using Brandon Clark at center only, but that means you could see more Triple J center. No Bane. You could play Jalen Wells at the 2. Right? Like Jalen Wells is going to be guarding Devin Vassell regardless in this game. So it doesn't matter like what positionally really, and move Santi into the starting lineup there. So 4,900 would be a really appealing play for me. I mentioned to you yesterday on the show, I've loved Dylan Brooks without Şengün the last few slates.
Yeah.
Big time usage rates for Dylan Brooks. He just needs to stay out of foul trouble. And I think obviously that's can he in itself, I don't know. He's probably going to get some Bridges here, or he's going to be guarding Bridges. That would be my assumption. Probably some Brunson when Amin Thompson's not on the floor. Yeah. But I like Dylan Brooks in tournaments quite a bit if Şengün is out again. We talked Reece Shea already. Aaron Gordon, obviously. You and I had talked about it. I didn't think people would go back to the well, but he is playing 30 minutes on a shorthand team back in the starting lineup. and he has been a fantasy point per minute player outside of the last few games.
Yeah.
Hate the downgrade. What was it for? Injury management?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good. Does not feel good for.
Feels like he's gonna not play.
So
they don't have Peyton Watson either. He's out for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah, no Peyton Watson, no Westbrook. So don't love that. You could play Keldon in a tournament. I would prefer if Wemby was out. I have almost no interest in Taurean Prince in tournaments, but he has been relatively good lately. For what it's worth, Taurean Prince has been what he's been.
He's been playing minutes, right? He's been actually filling up the stat sheet a little bit, and when nobody's playing, when all the starters are out, right? Like weird things happen with certain players that like step up.
They do. Just like the chalky part of this whole equation is not fun. Like I don't like that he is the 4th highest projected power forward of the day.
Yeah.
Kenrich Williams is another guy, like your game theory, you could play in blowouts and they're shorthanded. So if you wanted to play Kenrich, you could. He went.
What if Miles Turner gets ruled out?
Well, we saw it. They're going to start Thomas Bryant.
Yeah, but does Obi Toppin get any additional?
Yeah, Obi's fine. I mean, dude, he went 8 for 11 from the floor, and he still played 15 minutes. Like, this is Rick Carlisle's least favorite player. Clearly, he has to hate Obi Toppin. There's no other reason.
All right. Anybody else?
No.
Okay. Center. The Joker, $12,300 against the Pelicans.
Yeah, I mean, he is the easiest player to get to. This is the easiest spend up ever to get to with how much value there is today.
He is the 2nd highest rostered player on the slate in large field tournaments. If you're playing the single entry, he may be
70%. Yeah,
he may be 50+% easy. So if you're fading Nikola Jokic coming off of an 83 fantasy point game against Charlotte, against the Pelicans, that's
right.
That's on you. Especially with all of the value that's there.
Just pray. You have to go say a prayer.
Right. Because like we talked about this on the show, and when we built lineups this morning, because we didn't know the Milwaukee news, we didn't use Jokic because we liked Mark Williams against Washington, for example, who has a 58 fantasy point game against Memphis, a 50 fantasy point game against Denver on his ledger already, 57, 52, 54. So like he's kind of getting to that ilk, right? He doesn't have triple-double upside, but monster double-double potential. But if he goes for 55 tonight and Joker goes for 95, then you lose, right? You need Joker to go for 65 today.
And like, if Aaron Gordon doesn't play, I mean, Jokic, again, like and this game is competitive. We're getting 38 minutes out of Nikola Jokic. And there's no one I'd play over Nikola Jokic if I knew I was getting 38 minutes out of him. I wouldn't even think twice. Wouldn't even be a consideration for me. I would ignore the rest of the position. I wouldn't care if they gave us the, salute to all those MLB DFS players from like 5, 6, 7 years ago when they were giving us Chris Davis for $600.
Right.
I wouldn't even play that. I would just be like, 38 minutes out of Jokic. I'm just going to play that. So yeah, I love Mark Williams. He's great. Injury management, we heard like you talked about on the show this morning. Like the coach was like, yeah, he's fine. We just want to keep him healthy. And he played 32 minutes and he balled out again. His monster numbers when there's no Brandon Miller and no LaMelo Ball on the floor. 1.4 fantasy points per minute leads the team. So if you want to play Mark Williams, Sabonis is an elite pivot, right? Sabonis is 1.5 fantasy points per minute without De'Aaron Fox, Kevin Huerter. 40-minute upside for Domantas Sabonis. Like we saw them, I mean, like they're more than capable of being competitive against Minnesota. Minnesota's not a stalwart. I think Isaiah Hartenstein is an elite play if this game can stay competitive because we've seen like how well he can operate in every facet of the game. Look at the numbers that this guy puts up in no time because he can facilitate. He's an elite rebounder. His floater is unstoppable. I mean, I think we had a question earlier. I think it was from Cam the Man. I think it was like three point guards versus 2 centers today. It's a very hard question to ask.
Yeah.
I would probably lean the 3 guards if we got if like Scottie Pippen was starting today, right? Like if Scottie Pippen was starting and Morant wasn't, I would probably lean the 3 guard stuff. But it's another loaded position today at center. Like Jalen Duren, Valanciunas, Hartenstein, Williams, like all these plays in the mid tier are so elite. And then you obviously have Jokic and Sabonis Towns at the top, and Wemby for that matter too.
Yeah. And then you go down into like the mid value range below them. You have Jalen Duren, who's been really good at $6,400. Valanciunas is $5,800. Someone we really like after playing 30 minutes the other day in this matchup against Charlotte. We don't know what Milwaukee is going to put out there, but if like Brolo's by himself, like that could certainly be an interesting play. Precious Achiuwa is $5,100. The other Jalen Williams is $45,000. If Miles Turner gets ruled out, you mentioned Thomas Bryant could be down here as a value play at $3,200. Like, what would you do here at center?
I would probably go the Thomas Bryant route, and that's when I would do double center, because we saw Thomas Bryant start and play big minutes. He played 28 minutes in the game he started. He had 38 fantasy points. I'm not suggesting Thomas Bryant's going to be a 1.5 fantasy point per minute player, but I think the most important part was that he played 28 minutes in the start, that we weren't sure he was going to play. So. Right.
Yeah, we faded him that day. We weren't sure. We thought he would be limited, and then he went on and balled. So
yeah, and he went crazy. And again, that might not happen, but it's an elite spot, $3,200. And the most important part is that he can play the minutes, and Rick Carlisle will play him the minutes if extended. So my answer would be Thomas Bryant, and I would love to double center in that scenario. And once again, it just leads me to another reason why I don't feel like you need to get to any of these early games very often. Like with all the news that has come through the wire, like I want as much 8 p.m. exposure and later as I possibly can have, because that's where like all the news still to break is going to come from.
Sure, I agree. All right, let's build a lineup. Where do we want to start off?
Ryan Rollins and Jokic would be
Rollins the first. And Jokic here. I think you liked Michael Porter. All right, 57.40 remaining here. Let's see. Other values that we want to plug into our lineup. You were higher on Castle.
Keon? I probably like Keon.
Keon works.
I mean, I still think there's an outside chance that they start Trey Lyles, but we'll see.
All right, so we have that. Did you do Josh Hart? He's $5,800. Could you Castle 62 in a play? Let's see. If we do Aldama, the other side of that matchup, it gives us a 75.
Yes, we want more exposure to the late window.
Right? Go smooth thing. So 75. As I say that, I'm just inclined to hit Jalen Green.
I just think that, like, I'm not saying Jalen Green's bad. If Şengün's rolled out, he's great. But remote works.
Hoop Central, the Chicago Bulls are looking for a second-round pick for Lonzo Ball.
Bulls are always getting really good value on all the trades they do. It's so fun.
Yep. All right, example lineup: Rollins, Ellis, Hart, Porter, Jokic, Castle, Aldama, and Monk. Again, a lot of news to come through here, people. So just know that this is an example lineup. As the news comes through, we will be sure to update that in the playbook. In the Discord, we'll have the ownership out as well around 6:30, like we usually do. 7-day free trial. You want access to all of that right there. FantasyAlarm.com/win. Get our 7-day free trial. We have our big game promo going on right now. FantasyAlarm.com/big game. Promo code big game. You get 6 months of all pro for 50% off. That's $19.98 a month for 6 months. That basically takes you all the way through the start of next football season. That includes all betting, draft guides, DFS, cheat sheets, seasonal content, you name it, for $19.98 a month for the next 6 months. That's fantasyalarm.com/big game. Promo code big game. Go check that out. Grande and I will be back tomorrow. We'll see you then. Good luck, everybody.